Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Glaive Keo is back at it again with another video on Wuthering Waves. And this time, the video isn't necessarily on glazing Wuthering Waves or talking about some of its small issues. It's actually talking about how Wuthering Waves 2.8 when quality of life updates aren't enough. Because I think that there's been a common thing said by a lot of content creators, not actually a lot, but there's been some things said by some content creators that are rubbing a lot of individuals in the Wuthering Waves space the wrong way. And I've actually got probably the perfect example of one of the clips or one of the statements that I'm probably going to see in this video that kind of encapsulates what this title means. You're going to see a familiar face on the screen. Keep in mind this title. When quality of life updates aren't enough, people are basically saying the patch is mid. And, well, let's just hear this dialogue over here.
So I'm gonna be real, guys. Look, it's what everyone was saying. Boring patch.
It's what everyone was saying. Boring patch. I try to do my best with the volume, but yeah, that's, you know, what else can you really expect from the 7 out of 10, man? Another solid 7 out of 10. And a lot of people have been kind of like going around the space saying, oh, the EN community, Global's doom posting the latest update. I kind of really only think it's like this guy that said anything overtly negative. And to defend myself, right? Because some people might be saying, oh, Saint, I took a look at your channel, buddy boy. I took a look at your resume. I saw some of the stuff that you were talking about before. And, well, didn't you say there was something wrong with Wuthering Waves 2.8 in this video over here? My honest thoughts? Let me tell you what I said in that video. I think 2.8 looks like a great patch. I just think they could have had something for everybody. And one of the main things that I talked about in that update was simply the fact that this is like a casual, goofy, fun photo event. I think 2.8 could have had a fun, casual event as well on top of the 2 combat event. That's basically it. Have a task, have an activity, have something that appeals to as much of the population as possible in every single patch. And that's basically it. That's my take. That's been my take. But apparently, there seems to be a lot of discussion going on that's getting into doom posting. So why don't we go ahead, see what Glaive Keo has to say regarding this matter, and get right on into this one. Okay, this is his video. I guess she has a similar move to what Bu Ling does. I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit cringe. Because I had no idea what the fuck this anime is. I feel like there's also a lot of people that have no idea what the fuck this anime is.
The Wuthering Waves 2.8 livestream has come and gone, and it has created a very strange split in the community. On one hand, you have a large group of players calling this a massive W patch, and if you just look at what was actually in the broadcast, you can absolutely see why. But on the other hand, you have a lot of players, a very loud group, who are, let's just say, underwhelmed. Even the content creators calling it a boring patch. So how can both of these things be true?
We've already gotten the B-roll of that one, but that's the thing. I feel like the term content creators might be a little bit too encompassing because, again, I literally haven't seen anybody else except Genizad say words like that about the patch. I literally haven't seen anyone else say anything like that.
At the same time, how can one of the most technically impressive patches Kuro has ever shown also be one of the most controversial? That is the contradiction we're going to look at today, but before we get into that, if you appreciate this kind of breakdown, a like on the video and subscribing to the channel is a huge help, and it lets me know that you want to see more. Alright, to understand the conflict, we have—
Nice plug. Nice and short and sweet.
To be fair and start with what was actually in the broadcast, because on paper this was a massive success. If you just look at the 2.8 broadcast objectively, it was a massive W for the players. It was packed with some of the most highly requested features and fixes that the community has been asking for since launch.
I think the thing is that a lot of the quality of life that came in this update, or I think the main quality of life feature that came in this update, is something that was actually it solved a problem that got introduced by new features, which is a bit different from, hey, here's like a long-standing thing that, like, as like a game, you're adding quality of life for, versus here's a quality of life fix that unfucks a new feature that we added. I think there's like a bit of a different vibe. I think there's like a different level of understanding. Because the main fix was to nightmare nests, which the player base is still kind of 50-50 on, because nightmare nests are kind of fucking ass. That's a little bit different from like adding something like echo loadouts. Right? They're kind of like in a different realm.
Core of this, the part that got everyone nodding, was the quality of life. And the word changes is almost an understatement. This was more of a flex from the developers. First, you have the one-click echo absorption.
This is something that I can comfortably say should have just been there when Nightmare Nest released. And Nightmare Nest came out in version 2.5. Right? It's been about over 120 days of us individually collecting every single one of these after we clear a Nightmare Nest. You're literally sitting there spending like 30 to 45 seconds pressing F and watching an animation. And then you multiply that time spent by every single Nightmare Nest, assuming that you're farming them. And it's kind of just like it makes you wonder, like, damn, it kind of took a long time for something like this to come out. That's why I don't think people are necessarily as much in the boat of like, oh yes, devs listened. It's like, okay, the devs literally... Here, it's like, okay, the devs literally fixed a problem that they introduced. Awesome. It feels like more like, it's about damn time we finally got this one versus... Awesome. I'm so glad that they thought of this one and added it. Do you guys get what I'm talking about over here? I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm saying that this is objectively great. But it's like you going ahead and like going to work, and then your work gets you a new coffee machine. But that coffee machine spits out a shot of boiling water right at your throat every single time you use it. But it's the only coffee machine in the place, and you need caffeine. So you kind of get like fucking, your Adam's apple just gets like sniped every single day by like a little bit of hot water. It's like a little bit annoying, but it's also the only machine that you can use in the office. So you just kind of like deal with it. And then 3 months later, a mechanic comes in and then makes it stop like shooting you in the fucking throat every morning. That's like what this is, because there's no other way to build characters in the game than use Nightmare Nests. Right? Like that's the only way for me to build this unit, or this unit, or this unit, or this unit, or this unit. I have to use Nightmare Nest to build all of those units. And so it's just, I've been dealing with individually collecting every single one of these. It hasn't been optional for a long fucking time. And it's a problem that got introduced by Kuro Games. Right? It's a new problem that got introduced, and it took a long time to fix it. So hopefully that coffee machine spitting analogy makes more sense, because that's kind of literally what happened to us.
A simple, obvious fix. Instead of running around in circles tapping your absorb key on your every single drop, you just absorb them all at once. This finally addresses one of the biggest, most annoying parts of the daily farming loop. A clear win. But the bigger deal was the new material completion UI. This is that flex I was talking about. It shows a high level of technical skill.
Now this is something worth glazing, right? Nobody necessarily asked for this one. People were okay with needing to like manually jump around and like open up different like boxes and stuff to level up and get the right resources. People viewed that as like friction in the leveling process that was acceptable. I didn't really see a lot of people saying this is like a massive UI error that needs to be fixed immediately. But then they did it. And this, to me, is an example of, like, unprompted quality of life that feels amazing and is, like, a good addition from the developers without necessarily being asked. And that's what Kuro has been known for in the past before. However, the Nightmare Nest thing, I don't really think it falls under the same umbrella.
Took one of the most complex and annoying parts of the game, grinding for materials, and streamlined it into a single elegant interface. It shows you what you're missing, it lets you craft it, and it directs you where to get it, all from one screen. It is genuinely impressive, and a lot of other games could learn from this.
I think it's great.
Wink, wink. And then they added in-game echo build recommendations. This is a huge win for the casual player base.
These are going to be a little bit suspect, but I guess it's good for people that are never going to look up guides, that are never going to, because that's what this is for, right? This is for people that are never going to look outside of the game for any supplemental resources to better educate themselves on how to play. Because, yes, I think everyone knows that you're not really going to get great builds or great results out of
people who don't live on guide websites or watch theory crafters.
This is probably going to give you some dog shit builds if you follow it, right? It's probably not going to give you good stuff. You're probably going to end up breaking your character a little bit. They might still function. If you want, like, actual success or, like, actual good results, you would look up resources online. But if you're using this, you kind of, like, weren't going to do that anyways. So I think it's a really good ad for the casual part of the player base, just like what Glaive said.
Game now shows you the top 3 main echoes that actual real players are using. It means you can finally build a character with some confidence.
You want to know how I know this is going to be slightly useless? Because I go to Arrow Rover, and you're going to look at something very, very, very funny. I'm going to go to Arrow Rover, then I'm going to go to Echoes. And you'll notice this screen over here actually gets populated by the most common builds that players are using. Just so you know, this screen gets populated by the most common echo sets that people have on their characters. Gust of Welkin is the first most commonly used set on Arrow Rover. Arrow Rover cannot activate the 5-piece effect. They cannot. They're not capable of activating the 5-piece effect unless they put like a fucking Phoebe on their team and then convert it to arrow erosion with their skill used in the air. Or you have to play Arrow Rover with Chisa, which, believe me when I say this, is going to be fucking dog shit. Arrow Rover with Chisa is going to be really, really fucking bad. But this is the most commonly recommended set. It's because a majority of players kind of don't really know what they're doing when it comes to building their characters. And that's why having a mechanic where the majority of players are the ones dictating the builds can be a bit of a situation.
Finally build a character with some confidence. You're no longer just guessing. Beyond just the UI, they are finally overhauling the negative status system. I think this is a significant and positive change. The new adjustments, Havoc Bane, Fusion Burst, and the others look like they will add a much needed layer to the core combat system, which is a great sign.
Yep. I think the negative status reworks and everything that's going along with them look like they have a lot of potential. They differentiated themselves quite a bit from Erosion and Spectral Frazzle currently. The one that I'm most excited for as the debuff is without a doubt Electro Flare, because that seems like the one damage over time effect that actually will deal a lot of damage. Because it goes up to like 20 stacks. Like 20 fucking stacks of a debuff, which sounds nuts to me.
Top of these fixes, the production value was high. This was a full content drop. You have the new 5-star Chisa, who has what the community is calling absolute cinema gacha animations. And of course, the highly marketable scissors that turn into a giant chainsaw. That is an easy sell. Now there is the quiet observation that, well, she looks a bit like Emo Peeb, a darker haired PB, which isn't a bad thing. And the attack animations definitely look like it came from PGR. In my opinion, she looks the most PGR out of all of the Wuthering Waves characters, and then she references some of Nanami's attacks, so there's that.
The odd thing is that I think the main issue that some people might have with Chisa is the fact that her animations are, without a doubt, it's not necessarily her animations, her special effects are much more mellow compared to some of the prior releases that we've had. I think that's currently the biggest issue that most people have with like Chisa's appearance and her design. Her like actual like VFX, right? The stuff that comes out when she attacks, all of that. It's a little bit on like a less flashy, less noticeable level than a lot of prior releases. All I need to do is just show you this, right? Because these are the two releases that people are going to be immediately comparing Chisa's animation quality with. Let's just be entirely honest over here. Compare anything in Chisa's kit to, like... I don't know. Right? Like, I don't really know if Cheese... Like, I look at Chisa's special effects and all that. I don't really think it compares, right? You got, like, Galbreda going around, right? I know I'm, like, not in, like, her enhanced state right now. I might need to go find some enemies. But then she also has some pretty interesting animations as well. Let's go ahead and see, right? What does she look like over here when she finally enters Demon Hypostasis? Yeah, I mean, those are pretty damn... She even has the whole, like, Devil May Cry thing over there, too. I mean, it's kind of a lot, right? And then you go ahead, you tab out, and then we look at Chisa Combat Showcase, right? This is her at, like, her most flashy, too. That move is big. That move is big for sure, her big scissor chop. But I think the main focus for me is the fact that even when you're like in her, her chainsaw mode? Her chainsaw mode, in my opinion, is like a little bit underwhelming. And this is her liberation animation. It's cool. But then, yeah, there's just the chainsaw stuff over here. There's not a lot of VFX and stuff that goes into it, right? Especially that big slam. Especially that big slam. Because let me just show you what Nanami from PGR looks like. I feel like there's a reason why Glaive didn't show what Nanami's looks like. Because, well, it looks a lot more... It just looks a lot more flashy in PGR than it does in WuWa. The move, there's gonna be one move in Nanami's kit where you're just like, okay, yeah, that is literally what Chisa's doing. That's what hers looks like. This is what Nanami's slam looks like. She gets like an alternative camera angle, charges up all that lightning, and then slams down like that. That's what Nanami Star Trails looks like. And this is her ultimate animation. So it's kind of like, yeah, it seems like a little bit, not as much as what we've seen from both the prior character releases and even the PGR unit that a lot of this moveset seems to be, you know, a bit of an homage to. And I guess this is the thing. A lot of people have their own preferences. There are a bunch of people here saying it's fine. Guys, it's fine for you. And that's why I'm saying it's preferences. Because I'm not saying that every person in the player base is hating on Chisa and her designs. I said that that is probably the most common thing that about her that's getting critiqued. And so, for some of you, right, her having less flashy animations, her moveset not appearing as complex or as rich as some other units, you're fine with that. Some of you may like it. Some of you may like it, but there are still a lot of players in the player base that see hers as a relative downgrade compared to what we've already gotten in the game. I personally don't have that opinion, but there are objective reasons for why some people are saying that. That's really what it is. There are justifiable reasons for why people are having those critiques. And I've shown you all the evidence for it.
This is a part of a larger trend of just high quality character design. It has gotten to the point where I see people saying, I can't skip a goddamn character, and you can see why. This also includes the new 4-star, Bu Ling. The hype for her is massive.
I saw some people saying that Bu Ling has better animations in VFX than Chisa. I've heard that said as well.
She is a fan favorite and the first new 4-star in a very long time. Her animations alone have people talking. The Naruto hand signs, the railgun coin flip. I mean, look at it side by side. She is literally an anime character. The gameplay quality honestly looks like a 5-star. There is some concern that her kit isn't a negative status user, which feels like a missed opportunity given the new rework, but she isn't out yet, so we will have to wait and see if she is viable in the meta or not.
Let's take a look at Bu Ling's animations, because, I don't think that's something that we got to see. Unfortunately, this video... Hey, editor, where's the Bu Ling kit? Hey, you had it right here, buddy. Come on, man.
Booing, everything's working.
So these are her animations. I mean, you're telling me this is not good? This is why I'm telling you that people said that Boo Ling has competitive, if not better animations. So this is the funny part. There are already people in the chat saying conclusions that Chisa's better. I've shown you 2 animations. I've shown you 2 of her animations in VFX. How are we out here just going like, oh yeah, yep, one's better than, yep, Chisa's better. What? We seen for ourselves? Oh, so you saw this and you guys are saying Boo Ling has bad animations or bad VFX. Brother, what are we doing here? Brother, that's an alternative. She shoots a fucking ion cannon at them. So is it still surprising to hear that some people are saying Boo Ling has better visual effects than Chisa? Is it that surprising that people have that opinion? Because again, like I said before, it's a thing called opinions and preferences. And is it crazy? Is it outlandish to think that some people might like Boo Ling's VFX more than Chisa? Is that crazy? Is it impossible for somebody to think that? Are they objectively always going to be wrong if they think that? And the answer is no. It's fine for them to think this. It's fine for people to have that opinion.
Thunder commands, hell tremble.
Shit, let me just see that one more time. She literally changes the whole battlefield. Huh? That's what I'm saying. That is an example of what I'm saying. And for people that like the flashier stuff, for people that like seeing a lot of particle effects, all of those things, those are some of the individuals that are going to like Boo Ling's VFX more than Chisa's. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong in this scenario, but that's the thing. You can kind of see from the kits, the gameplay, the stuff that I've showed you, it's not like these concerns are coming out of nowhere. It's not like these concerns are legitimately fake.
You also have the new region, Honami City, with a strong aesthetic and its new mascots, the Namipon. And to top it all off, a new deluxe skin for Zani.
And similarly, like I've said, a lot of you probably think the Zani skin looks like shit. Am I right? Some people think it doesn't look good, right? Much like how somebody can think that Boo Ling has better graphics than Chisa, people can like and hate this skin. I think this skin is one of the ugliest fucking things they ever added to the game. I think this skin is like legitimately one of the worst skins I've ever seen in my fucking life. But I can understand people that do like it. A little bit.
Now for me, the skin is just alright. Zani herself is obviously great, don't get me wrong, right? Zani is always gonna be pretty and beautiful, but the outfits, I could probably buy a similar sweater in real life for less. A lot of their promotional collab for Zani honestly looks better. And this brings up a bigger issue actually, the lack of skins in general. We see Kuro come up with all of these unique, amazing designs for their characters in their promo arts and collabs, but in game, we're getting maybe one playable skin every 3 patches.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the part that's really gonna, like, sour the deal for a lot of people. People wanted these more, like, casual, streetwear, formal wear sort of skins. But the first one that Kuro comes out with looks like dog shit. And so I feel like it's not going to sell well because it looks like fucking shit. And then Kuro's gonna be like, oh, man, people don't want casual skins. Oh, people don't want, like, skins where people show up in, like, casual clothes and stuff like that because this skin didn't fucking sell well. That's because it looks like fucking shit, dude. People want casual skins, but you made this one look like fucking ass. This is like people talking about like Chuyan. Oh, they must think Chuyan is an ugly piece of shit. They must think this character is an ugly piece of shit because he didn't sell that much or nobody really played his story. That's because he got graped by the 2.7 patch having no events. And so nobody wants to play his fucking story because they're already disengaged with the game. It's a similar thing that's going to happen over here because I swear to God, I don't think this skin is going to sell that much. There's so many other approaches that they could have done for a casual wear skin. And this one over here is just like,
feels shabby. It feels complacent. They can clearly do more, and they should. Kuro, let me spend money on your game, gang. So you look at all of that together, massive quality of life, new characters, a new map, a new skin, if you have money. On paper, this is a developer that is clearly aggressively listening to its players. But that is not what happened. The community reaction was anything but unified. In fact, it was deeply fractured. So why? You have all of this good.
I want to see the examples of where like the fracturing of the CCs are. This is the part that I'm very interested in.
Good stuff. A clear W
Like, who has been talking the shit?
patch. Why did the conversation immediately split? It split because of two key things that weren't in the broadcast. This is where the entire discourse pivoted. It stopped being about what was present and became about what was missing. The first and most obvious omission was the 3.0 teaser.
I think that one's fair. But the reality is that Kuro can tease 3.0 in whatever way they want. And Kuro didn't tease 2.0 with a live stream. Kuro actually teased 2.0 and all the Renacita characters via, I think it was Twitter first. And then, like, I think it was just Twitter the entire time. Yeah, they showed, like, their weapons or, like, a ornament surrounding them. They, like, showed Brandt's mask. They showed Carlotta's gun. They showed Zani's tie, all of that. And then they dropped the whole drip marketing portraits for every single unit afterwards. Yeah, then we had the dog video and all of that. So they take a different approach for 2.0. They might just do something similar for 3.0.
There was this community-wide unspoken agreement that we would get a one more thing moment at the end of the stream. A little glimpse of the next major region. But the stream finished, and then it was just the mascot dancing. I mean, it was cute, but you know, we are getting nothing. You could feel the air go out of the room. A lot of the most invested players, the people who actually watch these streams, well, felt like they were blue-balled.
I think a big part of the blue balling and the unfortunate reaction to not having 3.0 news is that people are just tired of 2.7 being such a bad patch. That's the reality of it. People actually really want to play this game. People want to be excited for this game. But this game, this update has essentially been 40 days of nothing that excites you about the game. 40 days of nothing that gets you looking forward to what this game is going to have in the future. It's been 40 days of, I just finished the 7-hour story quest, and now I'm playing the game for 3 minutes a day for the next 40 days. That was 2.7. And the thing is, players were desperately looking for any reason to keep staying excited, and there's like basically an engagement debt that still needs to be settled. And this is what I mean by an engagement debt. I don't really need to look that much further than this. There's a reason why average viewership of this game fell over 50% in just a month. There's a reason for why this drop is so massive in just a month. The stats don't lie. The engagement doesn't lie either. Views everywhere are down. And the reality of it is this. 2.7 is the worst patch that we've had in the history of the game. That dropped engagement really low across the entire player base. And one of the things that solves or repays this engagement debt, well, it's a trailer for 3.0 or it's teasers for 3.0, right? You need some moisture to help alleviate the dryness. That's typically how it goes. And while 2.8, I think, is a good patch, 2.7 was unfortunately so bad that even news of a good patch still left a good amount of that debt for some players. Does that make sense? Some people had their debt cleared. Some people had no issue at all moving forward after hearing news about 2.8. Because my big thing was, we had not had a combat event in 120 days. This sucks ass. Now we have one. That was my biggest issue in the past. Not really a concern for me anymore. However, there still might be some people that are like, wow, playing through this update has been the worst experience that I've ever had in Wuthering Waves history. I've never had less fun playing this game. I understand what a gacha is. I understand what like development cycles are like. I know that 3.0 is coming. But there's a lot of individuals that maybe started in 2.4 or they 2.5 or 2.6 or whatever, maybe in 2.3 or 2.2, and they're just like, wow, this has been the worst period it's ever been in the history of the game. And when you see stats like this, that's only further confirmation of it. And there's a lot of people that fall under this umbrella. I call this engagement debt, and I think it's really only something that's going to feel like it's resolved once the 3.0 teasing actually begins. But, and this is the nice part, 2.8 is going to be a shorter patch. It's only going to be 5 weeks, and so those 3.0 teasers will be here a lot sooner than when we're expecting. A lot sooner.
This is quite simply a failure of hype management. It doesn't matter how good the 2.8 content is if you fail to build excitement for the future. The present patch instantly feels like filler, even though it's not, and it just deflates the entire experience. But the 3.0 teaser was only about hype. The second omission was the one that felt personal, because it was about player trust. And this, of course, was the bullying banner. Let's be
Wait, nobody cares about this.
very clear about the context here, right? Bullying is a fan favorite character, and
Is she?
more importantly, she is the first new 4-star character the game has had in a very, very long time. This was
True.
a moment for Kuro to score an easy win, to reward the community. Instead, they put her on the second half rerun banners.
I'm not gonna lie, that's actually better for 90% of players. Like, I'm talking about this from a meta perspective. If Bu Ling is strong and good, it's better for her to be on the Furlova and Cantarella banner. Because Furlova and Cantarella are when combined, two of the best characters in the game. And so Chisa, on the other hand, has like 3 teams that she's a side grade on. Furlova's the best, one of the best characters in the game for every single game mode. Chisa's a side grade that is slightly better than the baseline option in all of her teams. So, like, from a meta perspective, it's actually better for, like, Bu Ling to be on Furlova's banner, because you will be pulling a better character. In the present, in 2.8, Furlova will be a much better character than Chisa. Like, she's gonna be just a better pull for your account. So, I mean, like, that's a similar thing, right? If you had the perspective of, oh, Bu Ling should have been on Chisa's banner, then it's like, okay, what if I don't pull Chisa because she literally has 3 teams on release? And then you could say, oh, you're fucking over all the Bu Ling enjoyers because now they have to pull Chisa and she has no teams on release. This is the thing. I feel like this is like a moot point because it goes both ways. I feel like it's a moot point because it can easily cut both ways with no effort at all. Because you could make all the same arguments in the other direction. I now have to pull Chisa. I don't want her to get Bu Ling. Versus, I now have to pull Furlova or Cantarella to get her. I don't want them. Unless she's going to be available on both phases, phase 1 and phase 2, I think it's a moot point.
Not with the new 5-star Chisa. The reaction to this went beyond disappointment. It was anger.
That sucks because I already have Furlova and Cantarella. Great. So, did you hear the first part where I said, what if you don't want Chisa? Because clearly, you don't want Furlova or Cantarella because you already have them. And so, that's why I prefaced it with, what if you don't want Chisa and Bu Ling is on the Chisa banner? Then you would have to, if you wanted Bu Ling, pull the character that you don't want, and that's your complaint. To get Bu Ling, you have to pull the character Furlova Cantarella that you don't want because you already have them. Why you don't want them doesn't matter, it's the fact that you don't want them. And there's going to be people out there that want Bu Ling, but don't want Chisa, and if Chisa was on Bu Ling's banner, they could make the same exact complaint that's being made right now in the opposite direction. It's that simple. So it's like, whatever you do, unless you're putting Bu Ling on phase 1 with Chisa and on phase 2 with Furlova, somebody's going to have a complaint. Somebody's going to be upset. That's just how it's going to be. So again, that's why I'm saying I think that this is probably like a bit of a, not an actual, like, not, a bit of like a non-factor, at least in my opinion.
The words being used were scummy, predatory, and of course, war crime. Okay.
And of course, words like scummy, predatory, and war crime are also insane overreactions.
That's a little bit pushing it, but you know, it's like typical internet language in 2025. But the interpretation was universal. Players felt that Kuro was using their most anticipated 4-star as bait, that they were intentionally placing her on older, less desirable banners to incentivize.
I guess this is the funny thing. Frolova is low-key, like first or second best character in the game. So it's like, that's why I can't really be that upset about Bu Ling being on Frolova's banner, because she's literally the first or second best character in the game. She also has the best S2 in the game. I forgot about that. Yeah, actually, Frolova literally has the best sequence node 2 in the game. I think it's actually up there. Like, the amount of additional damage that she gets from this is actually unethical. It's legitimately unethical.
Or to put it more simply, to force people to spend their polls on banners they didn't really want. And now, to be fair, there are counter arguments. People rightly point out, you can just buy her in the Coral shop for free if you have been saving your
Guys, this is not an argument against Bu Ling's placement on either banner. This is an argument against 4-star characters as a whole. This is an argument against the limited character with 3 4-star units on banner. This is not like a Bu Ling specific thing. This is what this is addressing. It's addressing this because needing to pull somebody you don't want, like Zani, for example, to get these 4-star characters, that's just an overarching issue with the banner system, not a specific unit or where they're placed in it. Because as far as I'm fucking concerned, you need to do this for every character, every 4-star unit in the game. As far as I am concerned, you need to have that mindset. I might have to pull on a banner that I don't want to if I want this specific 4-star. That's for every 4-star in the game. That's just how 4-stars and banners are designed. There's not like a 4-star banner that I can like exclusively pull on and only get 4-star units. To get any 4-star unit, I have to pull on a 5-star unit. So yeah, like again, that's why I'm like thinking, where's this argument coming from? This doesn't really make that much sense, does it? It's kind of like, it's a little bit confusing when you break it down. So this is more so is there going to be pity for 4-stars on banners? That's an entirely different discussion.
Intentionally placing her on older, less desirable banners to incentivize, or to put it more simply, to force people to spend their polls on banners they didn't really want. And now, to be fair, there are counter arguments. People rightly point out, you can just buy her in the Coral shop for free if
you can do that. And this is also the other thing I need to say. The main argument being proposed over here, right, is that you're being forced into pulling characters that you don't want to get Bu Ling. What if Bu Ling was on Chisa's banner, and I don't want Chisa? I don't have Zani, I don't have Kartithia, I don't have Chikona. I also don't have Phoebe. So if I were to pull Chisa, she would support 0 teams in the game. But I want Bu Ling. And so now to get Bu Ling, I need to pull Chisa, and I have no characters that work with her.
you have been saving your corals, right? And others have the more cynical business take. Business-wise, it makes sense. It incentivizes people pulling on the second half. But that's the thing. Most players aren't shareholders. It just feels bad. It felt like a punishment, not a celebration. So right there, you have the fracture point. You have a developer delivering a technically brilliant patch while simultaneously fumbling its marketing and monetization. And that is why the community splits. It is the core of the issue.
So this is the thing. I think Glaive is just taking a bit more of like a matter-of-fact breakdown approach of this. I don't think he's actually making any arguments over here like for or against it. I think he's just stating what he's been seeing. That would be the take I hope on his end. That's what it seems like to me. It doesn't seem like he's pushing for or against anything over here. So perhaps this is simply just more of like a dialogue against the, I'm just gonna be honest, the reasons that were just listed out over here are some of the stupidest reasons I've ever heard to like dislike a patch. One, sure, I can understand the 3.0 teaser thing because there is an engagement debt, like I said before. A massive one that needs to be paid from 2.7. I understand people being upset there's no teaser. Because again, we started over... This was like, it's like WuWa 2.5, a little bit down, 2.6, back up, but then back down again. 2.7 was like, oh, story's good. Yeah. We're below sea level right now because there's nothing to do in the game. Then WuWa 2.8 comes back and it's like, guys, we're back. But we're still not at the levels that we were before back here. That's the point. And then the 3.0 teasers, if they were there during the live stream, they would be like, oh, we're back. Oh, we're back now, boys. That's what it would have been. And that's what everybody wanted. But we're not getting that because they're taking a different marketing approach. It is what it is. But all this shit that I heard about people getting mad about Boo Ling and her placement and stuff, guys, I'm just going to be honest. There's nothing that can be done in that circumstance. There's really nothing that can be done at all because no matter what position or what decision is made, outside of Kuro putting Boo Ling on both phases of both banners, there's going to be a complaint that can be made in either direction, and you can just vice versa the reasoning for why people are mad. So again, I think that entire Boo Ling part is just a bunch of noise.
Weren't really having one single argument, they were having like numerous, and this is where it gets complicated. To really understand the reaction, you have to see that the community was having numerous separate arguments at the same time, all under this big banner of is 2.8 good or bad, and they were all talking past each other. The reason is that everyone was judging Kuro on completely different things. They were all using a different definition for what developer competence even means. First, you have Conversation A. This is the competence is a technical skill group. These are the quality of life champions. For them, this patch was a 10 out of 10. They see that the new material UI, they see the one-click echo absorption, they see the high polish animations, and to them, that is the only proof of competence that matters. And
I don't think fixing an issue that they got introduced should be rewarded so crazy. At least in my opinion. I think this is more so a reflection of when Nightmare Nest got introduced, it's like a lower rating. And then this just levels it back out because they're fixing the problem that they literally put in. But for things like the leveling up, smoothing out, that, perfectly cool with, right? I think that deserves a high rating. But I think we are giving way too much glaze to the Nightmare Nest autoclaim over here. Because, believe me when I say this, 120 days of manually collecting every single one, it should have been in the game when Nightmare Nests were introduced. And it should have been easily in at 2.6 at a bare minimum when they added in 2 more.
Their eyes, Kuro is the most dedicated developer because they are listening to feedback and executing on complex programming fixes. They are looking at the patch and they are praising the programmers. And then, completely separate from that, you have Conversation B. This is the competence is hype and generosity group. These are the critics. This group doesn't really care how cool the new UI is. They are judging the patch purely by its marketing and its monetization, how much money they are being asked to spend, and how excited they are for the future. And to them, this patch was a complete failure. Why? Because there was no 3.0 teaser. That's bad marketing. And there was that war crime banner placements for Boo Ling.
That seems like a weak reason to hate the whole patch for me, but maybe that is an explanation. Do you guys think this guy would have rated it a 10 out of 10 if there was a 3.0 teaser? Maybe he would have said it's the best shit ever if there was a 3.0 teaser in there. Nah, he hates Wuthering Waves now. Oh, he just hates it? Fair enough.
Scummy monetization. So while the first group is praising the programmers, the second group is criticizing the business and marketing teams. They are not even in the same conversation. And then you have the third group, Conversation C. This is the competence is content balance. These are the analysts, the content creators, the long-term players, the people looking at the overall health of
argument
the game.
3.
This
Okay,
group
let's
is
hear
the
it.
most nuanced. They are looking at the shades of gray. They are happy that the combat events are back. They have been asking for that.
Bro's glazing himself, though.
But they're also worried. They are concerned that Kuro is just lurching from one extreme to the other. They went from all casual events in the last patch, which
All casual events in the last 3 patches. Let's get our information straight over here, Mr. Keo. It's not just 2.7 that had the Giga casual Finanza. It's the last 3 patches.
everyone called dry, so all combat events in this one because everyone was starved, I guess. They are worried that Kuro still hasn't found a stable identity for the game. So this group isn't focused on the programmers or the business team. They are critiquing the game director. They are asking, what is the long-term plan? But let's focus on that idea for a moment, because it is probably the most important signal in all of this for the game's future. If you remember, the context for this is that the last few patches were heavily criticized. The main complaint you saw everywhere was that they were dry. They were full of, let's just say, goofy casual events. I mean, the photo taking was nice, right? But there's a lot of...
But it is a goofy casual event. The photo taking is undeniably a great resource for gooners everywhere. But it is at its core, 1,000,000% a goofy casual event. Like, that is the definition of it.
Mini games, things that didn't involve combat.
It's just a goofy casual event that was actually done somewhat well.
Things that didn't use the characters you spent all this time building. So the core combat community felt completely ignored. They were, as many people put it, starved for something to actually do. So what happened? Kuro heard this, they heard it loud and clear, and in 2.8 they responded. We are getting a new boss for the hologram gauntlet and 2 new events that are focused on combat. The combat players are finally getting fed. And speaking of that new boss, the false sovereign, people are already saying it's going to be a pain in the ass, but what is really interesting is that it is Havoc resistant boss. The new 5-star Shisa is a Havoc unit, and honestly, I see this as kind of a positive.
The false sovereign is electro resistant, I do believe, Glaive. It is that's a bit of a misplay on your end. It is electro resistant. It's also Havoc too? Wait, it's Havoc too? What? He's double? What? Okay, I guess we're both technically right though. Yeah, no, I just completed his definition then. Hey, it is what it is, brother. It is what it is. And we take those.
It is a quiet sign that Kuro isn't just designing content that you can only beat by pulling the newest, shiniest character. It is a good thing for the game's health, but this brings us back to the reaction. As some creators pointed out, when a community is that starved for content, they will praise any combat event you give them. It could be a chocolate-shaped poo, and a lot of players will still be happy just because it's something. This isn't a very healthy state for a game to be in.
To make this argument over here, Glaive, the combat events would need to be dog shit. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, is that this is a bit of a premature point to make, because the take basically is there's been so few of them that any feedback is going to be positive because it's been so long since the last one. What if the event is actually good? Then is the feedback for it just because they're starved, or is the feedback for it because it's actually good? That's the unfortunate part about that reasoning. It only makes sense if you're taking the most pessimistic view possible on it and you're automatically writing off the event as bad. That is the only case where that argument actually works. But unfortunately, you can't make that when the when the update isn't out yet.
Means the developer is getting applause just for meeting the bare minimum, not for actual innovation. St. Tontes had the perfect analogy for this. He called it the burger metaphor. He said Kuro's restaurant, the game, was getting complaints that they didn't have enough chicken sandwiches, which are the combat events. So in response, they took 90% of the burgers, the casual events, off the menu. They listened, but they overcorrected. They just swung the pendulum all the way to the other extreme. And that is the signal. It shows the developer is highly reactive. They listen.
That's what happened. There's a reason why there's not a single casual event in 2.8. There's 2 combat events, a login, and then not really much else. And that's also why I said, and I've been saying numerous times, this goofy photo event that's actually somewhat fun, you don't really use your own characters, you can still have a good time in it, was the perfect event to have to supplement the rest of 2.8. You take this event, you supplement 2.8 with it, and I think 2.8 is legitimately like an 8 or 9 out of 10 as a patch. Because I think it has something for everybody at that point, and it should be widely considered as like a patch that most people, a majority of people, will think very fondly about. And it would have like made a demon lineup when compared to other patches. That's like the point. I think it also could have been a 6-week patch with this event in 2.8. And then 2.7 should have just been the throwaway. A 5-weeker with this event schedule, just make it the throwaway and then like move on. Wipe your hands of it. But I mean, that's a whole nother bag of words. But 2.7 being this long and then the next patch being the shorter one does also feel a little bit strange as well. Because if anything, people will say that 2.8's content looks a lot better than 2.7's. From like a outside of the story point of view, most people would say 2.7's look, or 2.8 looks a lot better. I think most people would have preferred if 2.7 was shorter and 2.8 was a longer patch.
And they respond, which is good, but they don't seem to be proactive. They should be planning ahead, not just reacting to the last complaint. It shows that they're still struggling to find a stable, balanced patch cycle, a way to serve both of their audiences, the combat-focused and the casual players at the same time.
I guess it more so calls into perspective just what the fuck were these guys doing during 2.5, 2.6, and 2.7? That's more so the question. Is that they were surely not developing the 2.8 Honami City Stranger Things event. It surely did not take them 120 days to develop this. And so the question is that why did everything like this? Why did we have a 120-day drought between Banners Never Fall and something like this? That's more so the question. When you compile that with additions to the game like Phantasma Dreamland, Title Defense Simulator, and Lament Recon Solaris Soldier, these minigames didn't pop out of nowhere. Solon did not shit these out and then put them onto the servers. Somebody had to spend money to hire a team to develop these dog shit minigames that fucking suck, that are genuinely extremely unenjoyable from a lot of different angles. It begs the question of, why were the resources split in this way to divert attention from another event like this? Guys, do I need to remind you about something? We are finished up in the region of gladiator arenas, gladiatorial fights. And once again, I need to remind you guys that they created this entire fucking dynamic arena in Septimont with breakable terrain. They have had co-op fights in the story where you fight alongside teammates and echoes, and we have not gotten a single combat event in this entire arena. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you remember this walk up the stairs right before a fight? Remember the hype? The crowds cheering, all of that. You're ready to go. You're about to see who your opponent is. Oh, let's tussle, motherfucker. Oh, wait, you only did this in the story. Oh, wait, you only did this in the story. How was there not, like, a tournament in Septimont, like a mini Aegon or something like that, and then you invited everybody from Renacida, from Jinzhou, from the Black Shores, and then they all participate with like an Echo or something and then go fight? Instead of making that type of event, guys, you got this. You got this, and this. Which one builds the lore of the game? Which one builds the lore of Septimont? Which one gets people more engaged with what's going on in the world? Title Defense Simulator, where you go into a bunch of fucking random scenario spheres and go jerk off with a literal Kurobot companion that like builds and shit and shoots little lasers. Would you prefer that, or something that builds the lore of Septimont, gets you more and more engaged with all the different factions, brings back older units for a fun little storyline to go on vacation? Which one do you think would enrich the lore of the game more and be a more, like, holistically better add to the game? The one that builds upon the existing backbone or just introduces a completely different tangent on the game, has very, very, very little, like, actual character buildup, or is completely considered a complete waste of time because it doesn't do any of those. Because that's what Phantasma Dreamland did. It did nothing. Brother, she looks like she's in a fucking cartoon children's book. Me, before and after completing this event, this changes nothing. This literally changes nothing. Like I don't go out and be like, oh yeah, I think about Frolova and everything else differently. There's just like not even like a little bit of like relevancy at all. It's just her like growing a bunch of fucking animals and like puppets and shit. That's all it is. The amount of lost potential that I still see in here is just like, it really begs the question of, what the fuck did they do after 2.4? Was there somebody like in Kuro intentionally trying to sabotage the game outside of its story? Because like, how the fuck? Bro, I'm like here and the graphics look fucking amazing. I feel like I'm in Night City. Imagine a fight with like the rain pouring down like this. Imagine like fighting in... Oh my gosh, this actually looks fucking amazing. Imagine fighting in this. It would have been absolutely cinema. You could have had like weather effects that show up for various fights. You could have done like all of that, all of these things, but instead you had developer resources that were used to create Banners Never Fall and all this other shit, and you decided to make this fucking garbage, and this fucking garbage, and this fucking garbage. And for people that have seen what Kuro's capable of, for people that have seen what they've designed before, it's just such an absolute letdown that they're just recovering from with this event. Because I've already shared my thoughts about this event. Maybe that video will come out later. I think this event looks amazing. I think that this Stranger Things in Honami, combat, exploration, base build-up event, all of that, it's taking the best bits and pieces from the prior combat events that we've had before, and even some of the better casual events that we've had before, like the fishing event, and implements them all into one very, very high potential looking sort of game mode. And it's just, I don't see any of the influence. I see none of the influence from Solaris Soldier dog shit recon. I see no influence from this dog shit title defense mode. I see nothing from Phantasma Fuckland in this event. You wanna know what I see in this event? I see bits and pieces of Banners Never Fall. I see bits and pieces of Cube, Cubic, and Kubi. Both great events. This event was actually fun. I'm still saying, if you don't like this event, it's because you didn't like the anniversary. The event was actually good. And then they're also taking components from Old Man in the Sea. 3 of the best events that the game has ever had. And you see elements of all of them in here. And it's just like, you can clearly see there's no influences at all from the recent garbage that they made. And it just tells you how actually genuinely fucking bad the last 3 flagship events have been. They've been fucking unbelievably terrible. And so yeah, that's another one of my spiels. It's what went on at Kuro Games for them to have one of the worst streaks I've ever seen a developer have.
Which brings us to...
They've recovered from it. I'm happy. But what went into the absolute disaster this game has had event-wise for the past 120 days? What went into that? They need to find out what created that prioritization loop and, like, what created that, like, agenda. And, brother, they gotta, like, make sure that that shit doesn't happen again. Fire whoever came up with these suggestions.
Casual players at the same time. Which brings us to the final takeaway. What does this all mean? That this entire 2.8 discourse, it was never a simple W or L debates. It wasn't really about the patch being good or bad. It was just a collection of different value systems talking past each other. This broadcast, in the end, just acted as a mirror. It reflected exactly what Kuro Games is as a developer right now. Both the good and the bad.
I think it's more so the fact that, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take some blame for this one. I'm gonna take some blame for this one because I was not as caught up on the 2.8 Doom posting that I should have been. Apparently. I didn't actually know, and I'm gonna be honest, because I didn't actually know, I didn't put that much effort into researching the different types of Doom posting that was going on. And from what I heard, right? And this is the thing. And then maybe Glaive should maybe show a little bit more proof. I don't know if he's conjuring this shit out of nowhere. But if I were to see some of the individual complaints of people bitching and moaning about Booling's placement on banners, oh, I would have just absolutely took a shit on them. I could have made that a video, right? And that's why I'm apologizing. Because I fucked... Because apparently if those tweets, those stupid statements were out there, then I fucked not only the community by not addressing it, I also fucked myself by not making a video on it. So, yeah, I guess that's the thing, is that I don't actually still even know where those complaints are, or whether or not those complaints are actually true. If they are true and they are real and they are major, then yeah, it's my bad for not covering them. But if they don't actually exist, then, you know, well, Glaive, maybe you gotta bring some proof, buddy. You gotta bring some references.
One hand, it confirmed that this is a developer with world-class technical skill. It confirmed that they have genuine, almost aggressive willingness to listen to feedback, and more importantly, to execute on that feedback. At the same time, that mirror confirmed that they are still struggling. They are struggling with effective hype management. That is the missing 3.0 teaser, and there's...
I don't think the missing 3.0 teaser is much of an issue. I think that this is a greater underlying issue where the missing 3.0 teaser would not have been a problem if patch 2.7 wasn't the biggest piece of dog shit in existence. If patch 2.7 is not as dry and is not as bad, the lack of a 3.0 teaser is not that big of a deal. But because it was so bad and so dry, the lack of teaser didn't alleviate the dryness enough. Or 2.8 alone wasn't enough to alleviate the dryness. And so people are still lashing out because of this patch. That's it. They're not lashing out because of 2.8. They're still lashing out because of 2.7.
Still struggling with what players feel is player-friendly monetization. That is the Booling banner. This all leaves one real question.
And the Booling banner situation is the most retarded discussion I've ever seen. I'm just going to be upfront with you. Again, the fact that you could just take all the logic for why Booling's placement is bad reverse it and then just send it right and send and return to sender makes it the most pointless complaint I've ever seen. Because no matter what you do, somebody's going to be upset, and you just literally vice versa the reasoning, and that's it.
For the community, what do you personally define as a good patch? Is it the technical behind the scenes quality of life fixes, the stuff that improves the long-term health of the game, or is it the other stuff, the forward-looking hype, the generous rewards, and just the feeling of a balanced, consistent content schedule?
I think the main thing is that Wuthering Waves has without a doubt felt like a good parts and pieces of it were mismanaged for the past third of a year. And part of me is still just concerned that they haven't figured out what took them off track and how to get back on track. I'm still of the opinion that Wuthering Waves 2.4, right? The patch that released Cartithia, and this is still my theory, and I think the theory actually makes a lot of sense. When this character and Lupa both released in 2.4, they brought a massive amount of the Giga casual, like Genshin crowd over to the game. And they all put in the feedback that the events took too long because they're used to Mickey Mouse shit in all of the other games that they play. They brought in a Giga casual gacha audience that just wanted to not actually play the game. And they got a fuck ton of feedback because 2.4 was one of the most highly played patches in the history of the game. And once again, all you need to fucking do is just look at the proof that I provided you over here. This is Wuthering Waves 2.4. That's the viewership. That's the playtime. 90K peak viewers, by the way, guys. 90K peak viewers. Peak streams. 1,116 peak streams. Jeff Keighley, the Game Awards guy, advertised Cartithia's kit, leaked it for us. It was one of the most highly played patches in the history of the game. And it brought in a Giga casual crowd that gave some of the most dog shit feedback because they weren't actually people that were going to play the game for longer than like 30 days. These guys came in, played for the month that they were going to play. That's just how it is. A lot of people, they come in, play for a month, spend some money, and they quit. They did that. Put in the feedback that they're quitting or they don't want to play as much because they were going to quit anyways, but they said it was because the events were too hard, too much combat. I want more casual stuff. And then Kuro saw that and then started expediting development of the most casual minigames possible. Then all those players left, but they left because they were just there for the hype of 2.4. And everybody that stayed with the game, instead of getting good events, instead got all of this shit, which is the byproduct of 2.4's feedback from Giga casual players. We got left with this, while everyone that was there for the hype just isn't playing the game anymore. And the end result is that 2.8 might be the first patch that they've had that was like untainted by that previous feedback from 2.4. Because there's a reason why the player counts of this game right now are at the lowest that they've ever been. And that's what I think what happened. And so hopefully the path forward, I think Kuro's only getting feedback from actual players of the game, actual dedicated individuals that want to see it become better. That's the only feedback that they're getting right now because those are the only types of people that are currently playing the game right now because there's so little content to do. And I think that they should recover from this one pretty okay, but they need to have some measures in place because one thing I can guarantee is that 3.0 is probably going to be a bombshell patch that's going to have a lot of features and is going to bring back that Giga casual crowd. But these are the same people, once again, that are going to go in, ask for a bunch of features that would make it better for them, but then they don't return. And so all those features that made it better for them are now making the game worse for everybody else. The people that are actually staying, the actual committed players. And that's the unfortunate part. They've got to figure out how to filter, isolate, actually know that feedback. I hope there are questions on the next survey that ask us, how long have you been playing the game? How often do you play the game? Stuff like that. So they can actually like see, oh, is this some fucking 7-day Andy who's going to quit the game in 3 days, giving us feedback? Maybe we just don't listen to that. Or they find a way to see what's their UL level, when was their account made, what's their UID, all of that shit, right? And go figure it out from there. That would be my explanation for it. That's why I'm still a little bit skeptical about the path forward. But I'm going to give them another patch, see how 3.0 is, obviously, and I think we'll know whether or not we're in good form. but I genuinely don't think we'll fully see whether or not this issue with the events and the design and the future is resolved until probably like 3.1 or 3.2. Because we know that there's a lead up time when it comes to development, and I just pray that they're listening to the right feedback and not the shit that they got from 2.4. That'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I know, a bit of a long react, but it is what it is. Let me know what you all thought about this one. Peace out.